What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, and I'm back at y'all with another one. So, Matchroom CEO and promoter Eddie Hearn has once again expressed that he's not certain or sure what direction the newly crowned, undefeated, unified WBA, IBF, Ring Magazine, Welterweight World Champion, superstar boxer, Jaron Boots Ennis, who has 34 wins, no loss, no draw, 30 wins by way of knockout, 27 years of age, 5'10" with a 74-inch arm reach. What direction Jaron Boots Ennis is going to go in? Whether he's going to stay at 147 or move to 154, right? And it's abundantly clear that they're not on the same page. They're trying to, that being Eddie Hearn and His Excellency Turki al-Sheikh, they're trying to push Jaron Boots Ennis to leave the 147-pound division. They do not want to invest in Jaron Ennis competing at 147 because they don't view the namesake at 147 big enough to pay him. Jaron Ennis clearly wants to compete at 147 pounds. He wants to be the undisputed welterweight world champion. Hence the reason why Eddie Hearn stated that he reached out to the WBO undefeated welterweight world champion, star boxer on the verge of becoming a superstar, Brian Norman Jr. He reached out to Brian Norman. Brian Norman has a fight coming up against Jin Sasaki, June 19th. Now, we know the rivalry right now between Brian Norman and Jaron Ennis. There's a lot of back and forth going on. There's a lot of trash talking going on. There's a lot going on there, right? But Brian Norman Jr., who has 27 wins, no loss, no draw, 21 wins by way of knockout. He's 24 years of age, 5'8", with a 72-inch arm reach. Brian Norman has this fight coming up with Jin Sasaki. And after that, he stated that June 20th, we can make it happen ASAP, right? And I believe Brian Norman's going to knock out Jin Sasaki in Japan, who has 19 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. But he stated, we can make that happen ASAP. But Eddie Hearn reached out immediately to Brian Norman, sent him an offer, and told him that he wanted him to agree and sign to fight Boots for October, November, or December. Right now. And Brian Norman is like, listen, I got Jin Sasaki, who got 17 knockouts in 21 fights. I'm going to Japan to fight him. I'm not putting the carriage before the horse. I got to rectify this situation. Then I'll immediately sign to fight Boots in a unification. Eddie Hearn is eager to get it signed. Why? He knew Brian Norman was not going to agree to sign the contract right now. And here's the play. The play is that they want to go back to Jaron Ennis. They don't want Jaron Ennis to stay at 147. They don't view the names as marquee names in big enough events to invest in. Brian Norman unification versus Boots. That's what Boots want. It's not what they want. Jaron Ennis versus Mario Barrios. That's what Boots want. It's not what they want. I guarantee you, if Mario Barrios loses to Manny Pacquiao, who's an 8-division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar, future first ballot Hall of Famer once he officially retires, if Manny Pacquiao beats Mario Barrios, they'll jump for joy and click their heels together to make Boots versus Manny Pacquiao, because Manny Pacquiao represents a marquee name and a big fight, a big money fight to invest in. And if he wins the belt and beats Mario Barrios, they'll be happy to make that fight. They're not eager to make a Mario Barrios fight with Boots or Brian Norman because they got to pay Boots a lot of money. And Boots is right now not a draw outside of Philadelphia. He sells out in Philadelphia. But he's an East Coast fighter right now. He's a local fighter right now. I've been saying this. They need to take him out of Philadelphia to broaden his horizons. His last fight, Amanda Stanionis, in New Jersey, at Atlantic City, the Boardwalk. Man, that's like 45 minutes from Philadelphia. Yeah, it's sold out, but again, it's local. He needs to be the headliner in Vegas, the headliner in New York, or even New York. New York is only 2.5 hours from Philly, but it's the biggest market in the world, media market in the world. So the attention you get fighting in New York is massive. So fighting in New York makes sense. But they don't want to invest in Jaron Ennis versus these fights. They want him to move up, Eddie Hearn in Turkey, and fight the likes of Virgil Ortiz, the 154-pounders, right? Where they feel like it's more of a return on their investment at 154 than they do at 147. And they're offering up Teofimo Lopez, who's a 2-division champion, because he's a bigger marquee name than Mario Barrios or Brian Norman. So it's worth the investment. So they want him to stay at 47 and fight Teo or leave and go to 54. Jaron Ennis does not want that. So what they're doing is reaching out to guys like Brian Norman, trying to get him to sign, and then going back to Boots and being able to say, hey, we tried to make this fight. Look, they turned it down. So we got to move on. We did our due diligence. We kicked the tires. We made him an offer. He don't want to do it. We got to move on. You understand? So that way Boots in his brain, hey, we tried to make it happen what you wanted, just wasn't able to happen. So now Boots can be like, all right, well, they tried. Let me go ahead and do. That's the play. It's the play. They simply do not, I'm going to say it again, they do not want Jaron Ennis to fight those guys. For him and his legacy, that's what he wants. It's not what they want. Period. It's not hard to understand. So Eddie Hearn is talking about he's not sure what Jaron Ennis wants to do. Of course you're sure what Jaron Ennis wants to do. That's why you reached out to Brian Norman. You know exactly what he wants to do. He don't want to fight Teofimo Lopez. Not interested. He turned down Teofimo Lopez to fight Amanda Stanionis. This last fight could have been Teo versus Jaron Ennis. He didn't want that. He wants the belts. Before Turki got into the sport, before Eddie Hearn signed Jaron Ennis, his goal and plan was to be undisputed at 147. He wants to stamp his name and his legacy in a marquee division, in a major division. There's a few divisions in the sport of boxing that carries the sport: welterweight, lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight. And he wants to stamp his name in history at welterweight to be the second 4 major sanction belt undisputed champion, and possibly defend his belts. That would do something that has never been done, which Terrence Crawford beat Errol Spence for undisputed, but he's never defended his titles at 147. So he immediately left. Jaron Ennis can defend his titles against let's say he beats Brian Norman. Let's say he beats Mario Barrios or Manny Pacquiao, right? And he's undisputed. And he can defend his belt against Teofimo, then move up in 3 fights. That's been his goal. That's his plan. They're trying to force him off his square for money. Period. They're trying to force the Teofimo Lopez fight. Turki is in a place where he's trying to make the Devin Haney Teofimo Lopez fight now at this point. He gets it. He hears Jaron Ennis. Eddie Hearn is not trying to hear him. You can see through it, man. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out, man. Let's see what decision Boots Ennis makes. But that's all I got for y'all, man. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, or one word, it's your boy Blue signing off. I'm gone. Peace.